I'm like Lori. I feel really awkward as a white person getting an award, and I guess this is kind of a crass comparison, but it sort of feels like having been a rapist and then going around and saying, I've written a book about what it's like not to rape, and then getting an award for that. But it's even worse because, as Mr. Billings said, it's even in this work. Whiteness is following me everywhere. You know, I'm taking plane rides, and I'm being brought into fancy universities and served dinner. And so even in the work, my class and my race, and that class is because of my race, it's just following me everywhere. I can't get rid of it. And so I feel sort of like a fraud. Being honored for that. So anyway, I just wanted to put that out there. When I'm like Stuart, when I got this call, I was like, really? Wow. Especially with BLM Cambridge, which is a group I have looked so up to. And I remember hearing Mary speak when she was a sophomore at an event in Cambridge. And I guess that was just 2 years ago. And I remember thinking, I totally effed up as a parent. I mean, no, my daughter's sitting right there. But I didn't know that it was even possible to raise a child or have a young person be able, by age 16 or 17, be able to so fully express themselves. And so I thank you. It's been a real honor to be in your company because you are one of my heroes in my own city, Mary. So Waking Up White was always intended to be, it was designed to be a tool. It's a tool that I think if someone had stuck in my hands when I was 25 years old, maybe I wouldn't have been so ignorant for so long. And a tool is only as good as people use it. And there are a lot of people in this room who both helped me shape the tool and are now using it. And so thank you so much for that. It's the gateway drug to wokeness, hopefully. And my intention was always, if people could just read this, that white people make that initial paradigm shift, then all the hard work everybody else is doing will maybe gain more traction. So that's what it's meant to do, some of that heavy lifting. I thought I would share with you, because what I do now is I spend so much time in white communities all over the country, and I see the same thing happening everywhere I go. And it's reminding me of this idea of you're saying circles, I would probably use the term clusterfuck, that I see everywhere I go, with white people dividing against one another in ways that holds it all in place. It doesn't take the foot off the back of the people of color who are trying to lead. It doesn't create space for the people of color who are trying to lead. It hogs all the attention, and it sucks the air out of the room. And so the ways I've seen white people divide are across class. And I want to thank Fran Smith for being an incredible example in this community of somebody who has, for me in particular, really reached across the divide. And brings white allies together with the brunch that she's organized. And I thank you specifically for all the times you have been very direct with me about how my elitism is showing up. I know you are. I see white people divide across generation. I see white people divide across, she doesn't get it at all. And then creating kind of these ostracized in-group, out-group, gets it, don't get it. And I see a lot of, and around sexual orientation, and I see even my idea is better than yours. So sort of an inability to work collaboratively. So it makes me so appreciative of the white people in this CCI community who have called me in, called me out, but really worked with me, because if you didn't know me 8 years ago, you don't know how naive I was. Maybe if you've read my book, you got a sense. But, it's community change was the first place I went. If anyone doesn't know, it was a course I took at Wheelock College that woke me up. And I came out of the course with my belief system in shambles. I didn't know what to do, where to go. The course was over. It was like, bye. And I was like, holy shit. And the first place I went was community change. And Paul Marcus and Donna Bivens were there. And they took about an hour in the middle of their workday to stop and talk to me and give me resources. So community change has a deep place in my heart for kind of helping me get the ball rolling in terms of my research. They introduced me to Peggy McIntosh, who was, put herself in charge of holding me accountable. And when I was ready to launch my book in the 2-year mark, she said, "You're not ready to get that book out." And she was pretty frank with me. Angela Judici, who I'm sorry isn't here tonight, she called me in. She said, "I'd love to read your," has that kind of something. I said, "I'd love to read your manuscript." And then she read it and she said, "I'd love to talk to you." That was right around that 2 years. I would go on to work with Angela for the next 2 years. And when you read a lot of the stories that are in my book, Angela drew those stories out. It was a much drier book. So these are examples of white people reaching across. Barbara Beckwith, White People Challenging Racism. She got me involved with White People Challenging Racism. And the group, there are so many White People Challenging Racism people here tonight, where I learned so much. That's a really great example of white people working in community, not dividing against each other. And then all the people who read, who were test readers for me. A lot of you are in the room. So I have so many people to thank. And of course, Horace Selden, I probably wouldn't have met half of these people if it weren't for you creating community change to be up in that office for me to walk in. So I don't want to just thank white people, but I do want to kind of call attention to the fact that when white people work with other white people, it's a really beautiful thing. I spent the last 2 days at the Race Amity Conference, which is in Quincy right now, and I want to stress how important one of their ideas is. They talk about the other tradition, which is, when white people get all fragile and are freaking out and feeling guilty and shameful and, oh my God, you're trying to make me feel bad. Remind them that there's another tradition. Not all white people were assholes. There have been white people who've stood on the right side of history forever. And they offer up examples of those white people. Albert Einstein, William Lloyd Garrison, Eleanor Roosevelt, and many more. And they talk about how they worked in partnership, always with people of color. They weren't... Did I just say something wrong? No. Oh, okay. I screwed up someone's name. Okay, the last thing I want to do, which I have never done publicly, is I really want to thank my family. Because, you can't just go from living in a white bubble to really stepping out in a public way and do it without the support of your husband and your 2 daughters, who never, ever gave me a minute of resistance. They said, go. Use our money. Use our house to gather friends. Go on that plane and go meet that person. Do it. Do it. Do it. And I could never have done this if I didn't have them. And I just want to acknowledge that when I woke up, it marked the moment in my life where I went from being a mother and wife first and everything else second to being a racial justice educator and activist first and everything else second. And I know that hasn't felt good. And I'm not sure what to do as I move forward. I promise I will try to find more balance in my life, but I can never give up this work. And I think we all know that it certainly won't ever go away. Not in my lifetime, probably not in anyone in this room's lifetime. So I'm still at it, and I really thank you for this honor.